Now, as we consider the housing boom, the economic boom that really drove American society in the post-war era, an important, very essential thing to consider, especially in terms of our inquiry as to whether or not this was a time of prosperity, of freedom for Americans. A key development to consider is the rise of the suburb and all the implications of it. Now, of course, we are living those implications today. Many of us live in suburbs, and so this has considerable relevance to us. The debate that we're going to have on next Monday's class is, was the building of suburbs during the 1940s to 60s the fulfillment of the American dream, or was it in fact a made in America disaster? Now, we're going to do this one a little bit differently. You should get a copy of this in class today. The way in which we're going to do this a little bit differently is that this is our last debate. Therefore, all students are actually going to participate in this, and the role or the position that you take won't be predetermined. You are free to investigate the sources, and you are free to collect your own evidence and decide which side of this debate you actually fall on. And again, that will be for Monday's class. Let's continue just looking briefly at some of the other developments of America in this time period. As we were discussing earlier, there was in fact an economic boom in the Truman-Eisenhower era. Of course, a lot of this was fueled by the housing boom, where very ingenious companies such as the Levitts mass-produced houses. They could build these houses in a couple of days, build them very cheaply. A lot of veterans were able to purchase these using the GI Bill, or the economic incentives that they had received from having served as veterans in the Second World War. They'd come home, start young families, and of course buy these houses, and were able to attain a level of prosperity that their parents, the Great Depression generation, were never able to attain. Of course, there was a baby boom. As people had jobs and people had steady incomes and homes, it did lead to a resurgence of births, and the generation of the 1950s and 1960s, those who were born in this period, of course, constitute a massive percentage of our population in North America today. This, of course, was a bit of a reversal of some of the roles that women had been fighting for in the early 1900s with the suffragettes and women trying to get the vote, etc. This was seen by some feminists as a bit of a reversal of that, and women were now relegated into some of the traditional roles. Of course, these were remembered as a golden age as well for some of the popular culture. Of course, this was the first era really where televisions were mass produced. It was also the rock and roll age. Some of the great rock and roll legends, of course, were very popular. We think of Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, etc. These were the cultural icons of the era. But the 1950s were very turbulent as well, as people began to truly fear nuclear attacks, and there was a great fear of communism.
Let us face, without panic, the reality of our times, the fact that atom bombs may someday be dropped on our cities. And let us prepare for survival, understanding the weapon that threatens us. An atom bomb destroys or injures in three ways: by blast, heat, and radioactivity. The blast of an atom bomb is its most important destructive agent. In Japan, whole buildings were flattened by its force. However, many buildings of sturdy construction.
And we can see that there was a lot of anxiety caused by this. It's also important to realize too that the 1950s were the era of McCarthyism, the Red Scare caused by the Korean War, and the surprising fall of China to communism, which led to a bit of a witch hunt led by Joseph McCarthy against anybody suspected of being communists.